So I will start by requesting Madam H.K. Joshi, the Chairman and Managing Director of Shipping Corporation of India Limited, to deliver her opening remarks. A brief introduction of Madam H.K. Joshi. She is currently serving as Chairperson and MD of Shipping Corporation of India. She also holds additional charge of Director Finance in the company. Besides this, Madam Joshi holds additional charges of MD Indian Ports Global Limited, CMD of India Ports Global, Chahawar Free Zone, and Director Inland and Coastal Shipping Limited. She is also on the board of seven other companies, which also being on the various board committees. Being the first woman to hold the office of CMD Shipping Corporation of India, Mrs. Joshi has nearly 40 years of corporate experience and over 6 years of board level experience. She has also held other multiple charges at the board level since she joined SCI on 5th of February 2015 as Director of Finance.
Thank you so much for that very warm introduction, as also for setting the tone for today's discussions. I extend my warm greetings to my eminent co-panelists, Mr. Prasad, Mr. Gurai, Commander Kumar, Professor Victor, today's audience, and to our dear attendees. I'd like to thank the organizers, first most, Elets, for bringing all of us together on this very relevant subject, addressing challenges of the future in its sixth edition of the National PSU Summit. Frankly, there couldn't have been a more relevant subject to discuss and deliberate upon in the current given environment. Although it's a simple subject, a very complex one, VUCA did become a trendy managerial acronym, short for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, as we know. But today, this is becoming increasingly important as it's no longer a jargon but has become a reality. The topic is thus very relevant today in the backdrop of the frequency and the intensity of the natural hazard in the guise of COVID-19, which has brought in a lot of emergency for most managements of the businesses and for countries worldwide. Actually, it's taken something of such intensity to make us sit up and make it a subject of such discussion as we are having today. While we all do say that change is the only constant today, but we still need to look at this more seriously, considering the success rate and the impact on the global economies every time a chain reaction sets in, which has a cascading and spiraling impact due to the nature of our trade and business interdependence amongst most organizations, nations across the globe. Growing interdependence between social, technical, and ecological systems actually increases the pressure during such crises, in turn manifesting as challenges. In fact, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, uncertainty was rising. Brexit, trade disputes, decarbonization were already having a profound impact on many industries and regions. During the pandemic, we learned to cope. Well, now it's the time in the post-pandemic world we will need to thrive. So then how are we going to do this? How are we going to go about doing it? The biggest challenge of the future, unfortunately, lies where we cannot see and predict it. It requires something like going ahead in the time machine to see what the future will hold so that one can appropriately address it and prepare for what's coming. So I am talking about on a much larger thing than what we can see. Unfortunately, none of us is blessed with that crystal ball. In this environment, one really wonders how ahead of times were all those sci-fi movies, Star Wars, and even the comics of Dennis the Menace, which we used to read in our childhood, which depicted a lot of fantasy, which is actually becoming a reality today. With Virgin Galactic's milestone flight and prospects of space tourism, we are going to be in a totally different world from what we are there. And that is what the PSUs of today have to rise to that level of imagination of what tomorrow is going to be. I'm sure we never imagined all this happening in our lifetime. Science and technology and development in all its forms, which is at the root of all our comfort and success, is also the cause of most of the change, which brings on risk and uncertainty and poses challenges for all of us. While we all have risk committees in our organizations to deal with the known risks, I consider these committees will now have a lot more work to do in terms of the unknown risks. The challenge really does not lie in the risks that are known and those that can be perceived and planned for, as these would necessarily get addressed once you know what risks you have to take care of. The true challenge then lies for the future, wherein we cannot see what is not known and thus how to prepare and become future ready. I think that is the true challenge on what we are going to do. We need to look afresh at our ERMs. ERMs with agility will be the need of a successful business. Studying the past to quantify and mitigate future risks is critically important. But this type of traditional ERM is most effective when paired with well thought through crisis preparedness, cyber resilience, and business continuity planning. There is simply no substitute for having a team that is prepared to rise to the challenge when the unexpected occurs. Companies emerging from the crisis are actually realizing that workforce requires new capabilities to face the digital and the environmental future. The ability to change your strategy quickly is a product of strong leadership, agile decision making, and crisis planning with a good data analytics. I'd just like to briefly share with you how Shipping Corporation manages the challenges and how it fared during the pandemic. We performed exceptionally well in the crisis period. We had negligible fatalities, almost negligible. Even though we did not shut down work even for a day when the nationwide lockdown was announced on 22nd of March 2020, the company actually outperformed in the crisis, rising to the challenge and broke decade-old records in terms of its profitability and net worth, highest net asset value, while it also was the first among Navratna and the Maharatna companies to adopt its accounts in the peak of the pandemic of financial year 20. And it continued its performance spree and adopted its accounts for financial year 21 on 13th of May 2021, maintaining its numero uno position while it surpassed its own benchmark of the previous year by about a fortnight. So that is the way the company handled the challenges. The company also achieved the distinction of being the first among Navratna Maharatna companies to hold its AGM for financial year 21 on 26th August 2021, that is just yesterday. So my dear friends, survival, though may seem initially tough, it is not so for those who are ready to evolve with the change in the needs of the organization. Rather, it aids self-transformation, bringing in better emotional intelligence and mental satisfaction as well. I'd like to end here so that I leave time for the Q&A session, which is going to be more interesting. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Mrs. H.K. Joshi, for bringing to the fore the initiatives, particularly the key initiatives taken by Shipping Corporation of India, particularly during and aftermath the COVID pandemic.